With it being Memorial Day, it is important to understand the sensitivity and respectful language that is appropriate and not hurtful on this day. Margie Bonds, founder and CEO of Military Assistant Mission, is here to explain why certain phrases are extremely difficult for families or fallen military members. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. And you?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Good, you look good.
So do you. I love
you.
seeing you. Before we get into conversation, let's explain what we know as MAM is all about.
Military Assistance Mission. It was named after my son, Michael Adam Marzano. He was a Marine. He was killed in Iraq in 2005. And I wanted to continue supporting his brothers and sisters. So we help with food, rent, mortgage, utilities, insurance, education programs, all of those things that we can help with.
Yeah. Today is a day of remembering him and all the other military men and women who've fallen. You are a Gold Star parent.
I am a Gold Star.
And this is something that's important to people to understand how to talk with families who have lost someone. I know we were talking before, everyone likes to say Happy Memorial Day, but that's not the right way to say, especially to a family who's lost someone in the military.
Well, it's not, and because think about it, even if it's not just the military, if someone dies, do you tell someone Happy Death Day? You know, it's a day to remember those that gave the ultimate sacrifice. So it's not always happy for us. So, and it might not be happy for a veteran who may have stood and fought beside someone who lost their life right beside them. So not happy.
Let me ask you, is it important to sit with the family and listen to their story about their loved one, or is that something that maybe it's a private moment for them?
Personally, I love talking about my son. I love talking about what he was heading to the Olympics as a heavyweight boxer to be a Marine, and I love sharing his stories. He was very funny, and so, oh my gosh, he was so humorous, and he cracked one-liners I couldn't keep up with. So if you want to sit and talk about him, I'll be happy to do it all the time. Because the last thing that we have is our name.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to forget his name, and I'm not going to let anybody else do it either.
Yeah, and what he's done for our country, which is important. So it is nice to sit and talk and hear those stories. And probably some families do want people to hear how great they were and what they did, especially on this day. How about visiting the cemeteries and the memorials?
I think that everybody should do that and know that that etched name has a family member behind it, and think about that, because it's really important to remember that they had a sacrifice, but it really affected a lot of people. I know my son's cousins deeply impacted by his loss, and they still are up at the cemetery changing out flowers, doing all of that. If you get a chance to go to any of the memorials, please do so, and remember again, that etched name is somebody.
Yeah. We are going to also hear a lot of poems from the war. You actually read one at the ceremony, and it's about the poppies.
Yes.
And we were just talking about that earlier. Like, a lot of people don't realize what the poppies mean. Just really quick, give a little story about that.
Flanders Field was a field in Europe that 326 American soldiers are buried in. And during the artillery of it, it just ruptured the ground, and you think about how people were maimed and killed, but the poppies out of that blossomed. So good came out of such evil. And if you look at those poppies, remember that, some people died in a Flanders Field.
Yeah, and that's the way honoring them too, is by wearing that poppy around. Let's talk again about MAM and how people can help out, because again, it takes a family and takes a lot of people, and that's what's important about talking today, is those that are being left behind, or those with the memory of going forward, like you're doing for your son.
Well, we always can use financial. We're nonprofits, so we can always use financial assistance to help pay the rent and to help keep the utilities on and help keep the car and make food. Did you know that 1 in 7 military service members are insufficient in food? And there's an issue with that. We actually have a unit here that's 1 in 3. So we need to make sure that there's food for those kids. We also love volunteers, and if anybody wants to help us around Christmas time, purchase items for teens and tweens, we really could use that help.
I like it. Okay, before I leave you, what are some appropriate phrases that we should use on this day for those family members? Anything you can think of that we should use and talk about?
Basically, you know, I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm going to remember them for you. We just love that people want to remember our kids.
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, we remember you. We remember what your son
Thank you.
did and still doing for this time for those families. So
He is, yes.
thank you very much. And we have
Thank you.
information on the screen on how you can get a hold of Ma'am, and also you can head over to the cw7az.com for more information.